and welcome to PopFlash. I'm Jack Westerman, joined by Jason Moses O'Toole, and this is everything you need to know about Counter-Strike this week. Our first story this week is ESWC 2015, which took place over the weekend in Montreal, Canada. There was $75,000 on the line and 16 of the world's best teams in attendance, so let's kick things off by taking a look at the group stage results. Moses, as we take a look at these, we'll see in Group A that Cloud9 and Faceit Tactics have advanced from Group A, and Ninjas in Pyjamas and Team Liquid advanced from Group B. And the first storyline I want to pull out here is Faceit. So they had a great run in the tournament, essentially. They were playing with a stand-in, Hiko, and they made it out of their group. They made it through the quarters, into the semis. They knocked out Nip on the way, but Simple still wasn't happy with their performance. How do you feel about Faceit's run in this tournament?
It was solid, especially considering they had a stand-in who doesn't even speak their language. I mean, Hiko is the perfect stand-in for him, the lurker. They can just put him on the other side of the map and let him do his thing, while they kind of have that four-man death squad on the other side. The big thing, it's simple. That's stuff you keep internal. You don't announce that stuff. He's got a little bit of a reputation for being unprofessional in that manner. That certainly doesn't help it. But here's the thing: Simple, even though he's hard carrying, I mean, it's hard for that team because he's banned from ESL. He can only attend certain events. He can't go to some of the majors that ESL hosts. It's not like they're constantly using ringers for him, so it's hard for them to get this whole team feel environment of how they want to play when they're constantly using, different players for different events.
Right, definitely. And if we take a look at the next two groups, so moving across to Group C and Group D, we'll see Na'Vi and SK advancing from Group C, and Envy and Renegades advancing from Group D. And I guess the most pertinent topic here, while we've got two French teams on the screen, is the French reshuffle that everyone's talking about. Titan obviously didn't advance from their group. They got hammered, 16-2 by Na'Vi, 16-8 by SK. EnVyUs made it through the group, but then suffered this whitewash by Cloud9, 2-0 in their semi-final. What do you see in the future for these two teams? What's the path back to being solid rosters again for them?
I mean, right now it's looking like roster changes. I mean, that's what everything's kind of pointing towards. I think the only thing that would prevent a roster change from happening is if these teams were just like the majors too close. We can't afford to go to this major, and in Titan's case, try and qualify for the major with a brand new roster. Let's just stick it out, see if we can do it one more. I mean, it's just hard, but both of those teams have a lot of issues going on. EnVyUs especially, Titan just never playing up to their potential, so it's really scary, and it wouldn't be surprising to see a shuffle anytime soon.
Right. Well, that would certainly be a shame, given the streak Envy had been on up until that point.
Could be cool. I mean, here's the thing. I'm like a diehard Kenny fan. I want to see Kenny win something. I want to see him on a team that is going to live up to their potential, and Titan hasn't shown that yet. So, I mean, I'm all for Kenny. Like, just go somewhere where you're going to win something, man.
Right. Well, talking of winning things, let's take a look at the bracket stage in Montreal now. So moving on to the ESWC bracket. And this, there are a couple of minor upsets in the group, but this was really where things came to bear. If you look down at the quarterfinals in the lower left side, we'll see Ninjas in Pyjamas got eliminated by Faceit, as we alluded to. And again, Ninjas in Pyjamas, their slump continues almost. Yeah. Again, you've talked about roster changes there for the French teams. Is it time for a roster change for NIP?
No, I mean, those players all have confidence in each other to get back to a high level. Heaton came out and said that they're not going to make a roster change, and if they don't believe they need one, then it's definitely not time. The biggest issue for them is and it's really with every professional team. Happy talked about Envy being burnout. Talking with Devilwalk at the Pro League finals, he mentioned that there were times that Fnatic wasn't able to practice for 2 months. I mean, it was just tournaments and online leagues, and when they found time off from all these things, they just wanted to take personal time, and that's completely understandable. So, I mean, NIP's in that situation where they know they have to make changes, but it's hard to find that time to do it, especially bringing in Alu as a coach. He hasn't really had a lot of opportunities to sit through practices with him, or not Alu, excuse me, but I mean, they just need to find time to kind of reset things and figure some new stuff out.
It's interesting. You mentioned Envy as being burned out there, and the fact that teams just don't get a chance to practice these days. Do you think that there are too many Counter-Strike tournaments these days?
No. Yeah. Well, yes and no. I mean, it's not. That's the thing. It's not just the tournaments. I think you're going to start seeing, more top teams drop out from smaller tournaments like ESWC. We saw a lot of it. He leading up to this one, Fnatic, TSM, they dropped out. I think we'll see more of that. But on top of all these tournaments, it's the leagues they're taking part in. Teams are involved in 3 to 4 leagues, and with all the travel going to these tournaments week after week, you only get 2 to 3 days during the week where you can actually play, and that's when you're jet lagged. Maybe you're sick after an event. Maybe you've got to leave in 2 days for the next event. It's just a hectic schedule for these pros, and I think we're going to have to start seeing some of these teams just pick and choose different leagues and tournaments.
And that too would be a shame, of course. Well, turning our attention back to ESWC, just while we finish off this bracket. So Cloud9 defeated EnVyUs 2-0, as we've already mentioned, and went on to face Na'Vi in the grand final. So talking about this grand final, it really seemed like Cloud9 had a chance. Again, their second grand final in a row where they seemed poised to take it almost. And we've got a nice graphic here, Nothing versus Guardian, that Jordan sat here with his ice bag on top of his head. So
I like it.
These are two players that have had massive statistical games, or tournaments in fact. They played great throughout the event. In your mind, which of these two guys had the biggest impact in the grand final? Who was your finals MVP, if you like?
Actually, to be completely honest, it'd be neither of these guys. It'd be Flamey. Would be my MVP of the tournament. But I mean, you want to talk about these two guys just on the graphic. Jordan for his team had the most impact. He carried his team, and he did it while sick. So it was kind of like you think back to the NBA, Michael Jordan at the flu game. That's kind of the sense I got out of Nothing, was that's what he was doing with this ice pack and everything. I was hoping that he would just kind of slouch over a teammate and walk away from the computers after the game. But he was massive. He came up with so many big plays, so many 4-kill rounds. It's not like he was just consistently getting 2 kills. It was these massive 4-kill rounds.
Yeah.
But what can you say about Guardian? Probably at the moment the best opper in the world. No question there in my mind.
For our second topic this week, we're going to preview the upcoming Faceit Stage 2 tournament, which is taking place in Valencia, Spain this weekend. Now, this is the Faceit tournament, Moses, that was wrapped up with DreamHack into one event, so there's $150,000 on the line. And notably, Envy have dropped out at pretty much the last minute. They've been replaced by Kingwin. What do you read into that decision by Envy to pull out?
It should be pretty obvious. I think that some kind of a change is going to happen for sure. I mean, the manager of EnVyUs alluded to it. He said changes were. It didn't even allude to it really. He came out and said changes are going to come, and he'd have a bigger statement, which we haven't quite seen yet. But I mean, there's really no reason for them to have come to this tournament based on how they played at ESWC. Their hearts weren't into it, their minds weren't into it, and you could just easily tell that.
Right. And the second thing we should say is, well, talking more broadly about the groups, we've got Cloud9, VP, Na'Vi, Kingwin in A, Fnatic, NiP, Solo Mid, and Liquid in B. Give us some insight into these groups. How do you see those playing out, just on the surface?
This Group A for Cloud9 actually really scares me, because I wanted this to be the tournament. They've only ever beat Envy in a best of 3 European team. They played Na'Vi and they played Fnatic close, but I mean, let's not count close matches as this big thing, and I really wanted to see them make it far, but Na'Vi's going to be really tough for them. Once again, they just played them in the ESWC finals, and Virtus Pro, who feels so comfortable playing not only against Cloud9 but North American teams in general. They just plow them, and Cloud9 at Pro League even got crushed by them in a best of 1. So this is a really, really scary group for Cloud9 to think that they're going to make it out of it. And I mean, for me, it's going to have to be, they're going to have to find some way to beat Virtus Pro for the first time. Group B, on the other hand, a little bit more clear-cut. Fnatic and Solo Mid are the two teams that should move on from that. NiP's in that slump, and I just don't think Liquid's there yet to be able to take those teams.
Last but not least, I've got some quick-fire topics for you, Moses. So, quick as you can, give me your thoughts on the following news stories. First of all, jumping back to ESWC, CLG Red won the women's tournament.
Yeah, Miss Harvey and Potter at the top of the female Counter-Strike world. I mean, everything is right. Once again, the stars have aligned. I think Potter's got 6 championships now, and Miss Harvey has 5. I mean, Benita even has 3. It's something crazy. So, good to see them back on top. They've put a lot of hard work into it.
Absolutely. Second story is Rush and NAF have signed for Elevate.
Yeah, pretty crazy, because I mean, they had this thing where Rush and Roka left for Tempo Storm. Rush changes his mind, comes back. NAF comes in, adds some huge firepower to that team. He was a monster with Luminosity in the regular season last year, and I mean, Elevate was a team that looked really scary 2 seasons ago. This past season, they really dropped off, so hopefully they get back up to it.
And last topic for you, Devilwalk has signed with North American team Luminosity Gaming.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's two suites now on the Luminosity side, and Devilwalk, great guy, good player, very very smart with Counter Strike. He's going to help them a lot, taking over that in-game leading role. Worked with them for about a week at the Pro League finals, and he knows his stuff, and he's going to help them out very very much.
That's it for this week. I'm Jack Westerman, joined by Jason Moses O'Toole.
And we'll be back next Wednesday with another episode of PopFlash.